Okay, thank you for coming to this meeting today. As you see in front of you, there are two pieces. One is our general promotional piece, and one is for START. The reason we're even having this meeting and talking about it is because while at START over this semester, we're realizing that this piece that we send out isn't reaching the right target group. And then our general CMN piece isn't either. So that is why we're here. That's what we're going to talk about, is just what we can do to improve our communication pieces at all of our events, but specifically at START. So just a brief overview, like we always do, or of the CMN piece. It's great for a church planter. It's great for a district leader. But with START, what we're doing is going after planters and team members. So we want to appeal to the church planter, so it's fine to have this one there, and we even have some district people there, so that's fine. But we're also going after largely, the message more and more is going towards people who are going to be team members for church planters. And so as you look through this, is there anything in here that you would think would be something that explains the idea of being a team member in a church plant?
Probably not focused on that. There's probably something in here that would
Right.
tell you that you could just
Seems
be
like-
a team member.
Most of it's directed towards people who are thinking of starting a church.
Right.
Going to be the lead pastor.
Which is fine. Like in the past, that's been fine. And I'm not saying we need to get rid of this, but is there anything in there that would appeal to that secondary audience that is hopefully growing?
A small paragraph right here.
Small paragraph.
That
CMN
says,
START.
events on college campuses introduce new students to the idea they can, no matter what profession you pursue. But,
Right.
yeah, you'd have to
So this one is missing a team member portion. The other piece I gave you is the postcard we send at START, and I printed it just both sides on one page for you. But this is the actual postcard, what it looks like when we send it to them. And it just has the logo on the front, and it says it starts with planting the church, and then on the back, it's just the schedule. No information, anything besides that, no bios or anything like that. I know when I first started doing START, we had a packet that we would send, or that we would take with us. We would still put the postcard in the mail, but we also had a 3-page brochure. Do you remember that?
Of START.
Mm-hmm. With when we did it with Luke Frederick's company.
Vaguely.
It was white. It was a really nice piece. Really, it was about this size, but and we gave it out at the beginning to people as they were coming into the chapel service, and it like I said, looked really good. And so it had the schedule in there, it had info about each speaker in there, and there were even pages in the back for them to take notes each day of chapel. Very conference oriented, which in a conference setting would work. But in a college setting where people are handed stuff every day, we found after the first event, all of our brochures had been put on the floor of the chapels. So nobody left the room with them or anything like that. And so this is what we're trying to figure out. So this is the first piece I mentioned. Here's our START piece. Nothing about team members on either of these pieces. And this is all we send besides a follow-up email for START. And then, like I said, at this past event, and then several other ones this year, we had people come up asking for info about team members. And we give them this. And some people actually even brought the main brochure back to us and said, there's nothing in here about team members. Like, why would you, they weren't rude about it, but they were just like, can you tell me more about it? Like asking us just to talk about it because there was nothing in here. So that happened at Vanguard a lot, just 2 weeks ago, and at Southwestern more than the others. People just asking about the whole team member idea. So that brings us to the whole reason of what can we do to make this better. Like I said, the old piece had stuff in there, but it ended up on the floor. So I don't know if it needs to be that again. I don't know if it just needs to be something like this size,
Probably be better
but with like
full as
information on the back. I don't even know if we need to give it out. If it just needs to be something that we have at the table for those who are seeking information, they can come up to the table and give it to them.
That's what I was thinking is, create a third print piece, something about like typical situations for team members and how to get connected to, you know, church planners who may be looking for team members, some kind of information like that.
Right.
And then if we did just like a limited amount, print those, and then people come up to the booth and ask questions, that's where you can give them that piece, as
Oh,
opposed
no.
to
Carol, could you get that pin out of there? The
A
top one?
pen, I think this one.
because
Um,
if you mass produce them and they end up all over the shop
floor.
floor again, that doesn't.
Well, the thing I was thinking is that if a person had in mind to stop by the table and get it, you've got that percentage of people, but everybody's gonna get that. So if there was a further explanation in that, they might actually stop by the table and talk to you.
So you're saying the initial piece we didn't have more information?
Like to have it be a foldover or something,
Okay.
because you'll capture, I would think, a percentage of people that had no interest, but they glanced at it a second time, who would never stop at your table to get the piece, and you might grab a small percentage of those people.
Okay, so this is we sent this ahead of time in the mailbox. If we kept it this size and even made it a brochure that was this size, because we know they all fit, no one's complained about them not fitting. We could do it like that. I kind of like that idea.
Longer, how about the longer version rather than a fold over, because like once you fold over, that requires
Opening.
energy to
So make
have
it bigger,
hinges,
make it like a little bit longer. Is that what you're saying?
like our postcard we used to do, but then since you're not
Okay.
mailing it, there shouldn't be extra postage, you're putting it in a student mailbox.
Right. I mean, the only postage is getting it to the event, so it's not
Right.
going to be any extra than what
So
we
rather
normally
than
have.
having something that somebody's gonna have to expend some energy and actually open, how about if you make it longer and it's all right there in front of them with just a little sidebar?
Right. So you're saying leave it this and keep the schedule, just make it longer so there's a bottom piece.
Right, I don't know. Make it as easy for them as possible.
So I have a couple of questions just about that process.
Alright.
First is, how are we collecting information from the people that are interested in getting connected but don't want to plant? So they're looking at being a part of a church plant. So how are we gathering their personal contact information? And then the other question is, who's owning making those connections, like with the planter and those people seeking?
Right. At this point, we're working through a better version of that, but at this point, they text in CMN star to 22828. So Jeff Leake is a master at this response for us. He's the best one we have in how he does it. On his day of speaking, he will call out initially lead planters, because we still want their information too. Like, we don't not want the lead planters. So he'll call out them, and he'll even say, like, he'll have them come up to the front, but then he'll say, if you responded, take out your phone and text this number right now. Like, so he does that, and then he says, anybody who feels like they would be a team member, come up here. And then so they do, and he does the same thing for them, and then they actually pray around the people who would want to be a lead planner. So it's a really cool deal when Jeff does it. So we get their information through that, text team and start, and then the initial connection ideally would be through a campus group, but a lot of the campuses don't have functional campus groups. The most functional one right now would either be North Central or SAGU. SAGU's is completely student run, which is fantastic, and they've been doing stuff all year. They've been inviting planners on their own. We were able to connect them with Mike Harper, who's the planning director, so he's actually giving them a little bit of money to do like food at their events, which is great. And then Roger does North Central, and he's the church plan director for them, so he's really connected there. So initially the first connection is ideally through them, but at the campuses we don't have it, the first connection was John Davidson. After the event's over, he sends an email out to those who responded with info about their district. There's a link to a map that shows other churches around them that are church plants. And then that's initially the first contact. Ideally, we want to do more, because we're trying to. Ideally, we would love to have a website, a page on our site where they could click and find all the church planners who need, and find what they need in that area. Like if they were going to go to Denver, they could zoom in on Denver and find 20 plants and click on one and see like what they need. Like they need a worship pastor, or they need someone who's going to work with kids. That way they can then have that discussion. There's just so much logistically with the districts involved, because that would be us stepping over the district and inviting all these new people in, which you wouldn't think is a problem, but a lot of people do think it's a problem. So, but right now the connection is either the campus group or John Davidson.
So since we don't have that map, are we doing anything to mention the strategic cities as possible places they can start looking?
We have started doing that since we've rolled out strategic cities. One thing we want to do at start, which this needs to go on that wish list you mentioned earlier, is have a TV or a monitor or something